Coming up, a Sad Styles production. Get into it.
Hey, Mikey.
Yes.
What game are we playing this week?
Oh, this week?
This
like
week.
on the Retrograde podcast?
On the Retrograde
it's going to be
podcast.
Oddworld Abe's Oddysee on the PlayStation 1. Have you heard of this one?
I have. I heard it's a little bit odd.
I don't, like, to be honest, I feel like you're doing a bit here, right? I'm not sure I understand it. And you're looking into the camera as though our audio listeners can hear you looking. You do have very wet eyes.
I do have very, very wet eyes. That is canon around here, yes.
Yes.
But yes, I heard it's a little odd. So I hope it's not a little too odd for us to enjoy.
Can we do me a favor? We do me a favor?
We can do me a favor,
and leave the shit jokes to me, because right now you're really cutting my grass here.
Yeah,
and I don't know what I'm supposed to do if you're going to make all the bad jokes. What identity am I going to have here?
Yeah, it felt weird. It felt like wearing someone else's pants.
You know what I'm going to do to you to make sure this doesn't happen?
What's that?
I'm going to sew your fucking mouth shut, just like the protagonist from Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee, this week on the Retrograde podcast.
Welcome to the Retrograde
podcast, where we remind you what you used to love and whether or not you still should.
I'm Andrew Bascom, and with me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself.
Oddworld, Mikey's Oddysee, Aaron Worth.
Hey, good, yeah.
Well, so Mikey is, I know it doesn't sound like much of a smart thing to say, Andrew, but there is a sequel to this game called Munch's Oddysee.
Oh.
So that... you follow me? That name also starts with an M.
So Munch is like Mikey.
It's a little bit of a shorter walk, much like Munch himself, because he's got those little stubby legs. Now, as we're saying all this, Andrew, the listener is just with bated breath and a sewn shut mouth, waiting for us to talk about the episode of this week, or the game of this episode, which is the episode of this week.
Yes,
which is Oddworld Abe's Oddysee from 1997, a game that I can't wait to talk to you. And as we're talking about this, I think from the get-go, I've got much more of a familiarity with this game, and it is a weird fucking game.
Yep.
So you're gonna have a lot of questions, and Andrew, I'm willing to answer them for you.
Wow.
Okay, but before we get into that, because we will talk about that game.
Oh, thank God.
But I got to say this for people who may have forgotten, or new listeners. First of all, thanks for listening.
Hello.
Secondly, typically what we do on this podcast is we take a look back at the games that we used to play when we were kids. Usually it's something we had an affinity towards one way or another. We rate and review the game based on our memory of the game as we were little children out of 4 bits. Yep. And we actually play the game and then come back and review it once again out of 4 bits in the modern day against like some modern games. How does this game hold up?
I'm desperate to find out, because I also remember this game kind of being like the Deadpool of its time, a little like quirky and fourth wall breaking.
Wow, so you're
meta.
Really just anything with a sewn shut mouth, has got to go in this pile.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, you didn't think about a lot of the racist things you've said on this podcast before. What? Oh, now you're not okay being called out on this?
No, I'm not okay being called out for lies. Your lies, not mine.
What am I?
Truth.
Tell me what I'm lying about.
That I've said racist things on this podcast.
Oof, you got me there. Fuck, man.
I like that you also went with the canonical version of Deadpool that is from the Wolverine movie. That's the one that everyone's like, oh yeah, Deadpool, I remember that from the Wolverine movie. The only reason I say that is because anytime that we've done a little meta games or games that we remember being funny at the time and things like that, usually have aged like fish. And so you kind of like, oh no, so I'm very curious.
I honestly, as far as jam bands go, I think Fish has aged really well.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay, how about age like milk then?
Aged like milk. Nutri-Milk Hotel. I still listen to them.
Yeah,
quite
okay.
a bit,
That's
actually.
pretty good. That's good. Aged like... No, you know what? Those are the only 2 food things I can think of.
Those are the only 2 food things that go stale.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Cheese, I guess. I don't know. No, some cheese gets better with age.
Very much so.
Yeah. So like I'm just saying, because like we've done Monkey Island.
We have.
And that was kind of like, okay.
You know, it's funny you bring up Monkey Island, and we'll get into that a little bit more in terms of our impressions of the game when we turn the focus of the podcast onto Oddworld Abe's Oddysee. But this game kind of reminds me, at least the development of it and the intention behind the development of it, seemed to be an attempt to meld together comedy and cinematics with gameplay, much like LucasArts at the time, or Lucas.
What was it called?
Jesus Christ. Tim Schafer and the merry band of pranksters that made the Monkey Island franchise. Lucasfilm Games, LucasArts. I think LucasArts. Yeah, I'm pretty sure LucasArts. Anyway, because of this attempt to look at video games not just as one medium, but as a medium that can be imbued with some of the things that we love from cartoons and movies and music to make more of an overall experience cinematically. So I do think that there's a very distinct, clear line that you can draw between games like that, games like Monkey Island and games like Abe's Oddysee. But to your point, what you were going to say, about other games like this that we've played in the past.
That they haven't aged very well.
Right. You know, the first one through the door gets murdered in my house.
Oh, wow. Why is that? What's behind the door?
Well, it's just, if you're entering my house,
yeah.
I'm not letting you see what's behind the door.
Right. So
this is why I can't keep a family.
I'd say so.
Why the government won't let me keep a family. They keep taking them away from me and hiding them.
Yeah, you keep creating them. And they just keep taking them away from you.
Yeah.
It's like your own Sims life brought back. I keep putting a pool in, and then the ladder keeps disappearing. Did we have 3 fireplaces in this room yesterday? Where'd the door go?
Do I still want to fuck my neighbor, Mrs. Goth?
Yes. I mean, are the Goths still trying to say, we like your vibe, we saw you from across the bar? Have you never heard this set up as a joke?
No.
No, it's always at swingers or like people that are looking to expand their relationships always go like, hey, me and my wife were seeing you across the bar. We really like your vibe. So and that's always like the start of they're about to pick you up. They're going to try.
Interesting, because you've been with your partner for quite a while now.
Yeah, a few years.
We've hung out quite a bit.
Yeah.
You have not once said that to me.
No, and we never will.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
what
don't
if
get your hopes
I dress a little bit like this?
Wow. Very sexual. Oh, here we go. It is a real treat if you're watching over at YouTube. You get to see Mikey turning his shirt into a halter top.
What if I do the rest of the podcast like, oh, it's gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Hey, Andrew, tell me a little something about your gaming life. What's going on in this world of yours?
Gaming life. Obviously, I've been playing Madden.
Is this still the one that you're spending the most time with?
Yes. It's like telling somebody that they're like clean. They're like, what do you do last week? Like heroin.
Ah, yes.
Like, did you like it? No. Are you going to do more of it? Yes. Honestly, I don't want to belittle people.
Why would I do anything but?
I don't want to belittle people with addiction, but at the same time, clearly I have a problem. So there is more connection than I originally thought. I got to relive, like I was saying last week, that I was playing the full season, so I got to wrap that up. I won the Super Bowl. No big deal. In lieu of flowers, donate to a charity. And so that I wonder though that now that has been completed, whether that means I will now go like, well, I got to play another one,
right? Or
I'm kind of that has now been scratched, and I'll go back to something other horrible thing I'm wasting my time with. So,
well, speaking of horrible things we've been wasting our time with, we are now a week away, essentially, or not quite a week, close to the release of Overwatch 2.
Yes.
And I'm kind of reaching this weird point. Now, new listeners would not know this, but I have a problem, and it's with Overwatch. And it's not a problem that I have with the game as if, that game shouldn't. It's that I can't stop playing it.
Yes.
However, I haven't played it for probably about a month now.
So, and just if you're new and you say, he's got a problem, he can't stop playing it. He hasn't played in a month. I can't begin to stress to you how much Mikey has played this game in the past. And a number of times that he is aware that he needs to stop playing it.
Yes.
And then keeps playing it. And he's aware of this. This is a big deal. And the problem is he's clean. He's broken free. And all of a sudden, it's coming up with a new improvement.
Overwatch 2 but look, this is like a whole... Imagine this.
I'll try my best.
You talked about heroin before.
I did.
You kick it to the curb.
Ugh.
Addiction's gone. All of a sudden, 2 weeks.
Like it's a roommate.
You kick that addiction to the curb. 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Heroin 2 is coming out.
It's even better.
It's even better. It's new. You got to check it out.
Also, it's free to play.
Like a true drug dealer.
Yeah.
Blizzard is giving you your first taste for free.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to chase the Hanzo Dragon?
Oh, well done.
Well done,
Andrew. Well done, Andrew.
Professional.
Honestly, I can't escape the pull of Overwatch 2, much like Zarya's Graviton Surge.
Oh my God. I feel like I have a 2-ton gorilla on my back. And that gorilla, of course, is Winston.
Winston. See, to me, it's like a lot of people struggle. The thing they struggle with about giving up any addiction, smoking, coffee, heroin,
anything,
is it makes you irritable. And that's happened to me. I wake up with a primal rage deep in my belly. All
right, I think that'll be enough of that. But
I can keep going.
I know you can, Mikey. I know. But I know I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this podcast. I've been thinking about the horrible ways that Overwatch 2's release will impact this podcast,
Yes.
Our friendship.
Yes.
And so you've said in the past, you were so desperate at one point to stop playing Overwatch that when Overwatch 2 got announced, you said at the end of Overwatch
7 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much like a month after Overwatch 1 came out, that you said, I might not play Overwatch 2 because I need to stop doing this.
I think I said I think that might be the point at which I finally say, you know, I've had my fill. There's a clear end point to Overwatch 1 at that point. Sail off into the distance. I've changed my tune a little bit on that.
Oh yeah.
Because I think
surprised.
I to be fair though, I am still right now I'm playing Overwatch less than I was back when I said that. I was playing hours, like maybe an hour a day at least.
Which once again, that's a lot for Mikey.
Yes.
It's not always for everybody, but that's a lot for Mikey.
Yeah. Back then, I found myself, especially on weekends, you know, whatever. That was the only game that I played. Never mind how much time you're playing with it, however much time you have to play games, it became the only game that I played.
Right.
And as someone with a video game podcast and someone who loves the exploration of new titles and almost more than beating games, I love buying games and playing new games.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
you
clear.
love purchasing new games.
I was spending that much time with it. I'm not spending that much time with Overwatch now, and I think now this is kind of a reason to start fresh with a new relationship to Overwatch.
Yeah.
I'll cut ties to Overwatch 1 and start with Overwatch 2. Maybe I'll start some streaming. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a good thing.
Wouldn't that be fun?
But I will say this, and Andrew, maybe we should commit to this now. We need to have an Overwatch 2 themed episode on this podcast.
Well, yes, we do.
Around the time that it comes out. So
one way or another, the first episode after Overwatch 2 comes out will be an Overwatch theme episode, whether we want it to or not. Yeah, like this week, we're doing
Mario
Yoshi
64, and then we're just talking Overwatch.
The whole fucking time. Even during the gameplay, I'm like, I don't like that they did Soldier.
I don't like that Mario's triple jump doesn't jump you as high as Winston's jump pack. It just feels unreasonable to me.
So we're just going to compromise and say that Overwatch 2 will be the theme of that episode, the first episode back after the release of that game.
Yes, first or second, depending on where it falls, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing that I've been thinking about before we get on to some other games and other gaming news. In general, I've been grappling with the fact that this game, Overwatch 1, that I've been playing obsessively on and off since its release 5 years ago, something like that.
Has that only been 5 years though?
Maybe 6, something along those lines. Yeah. I may have played my last game of Overwatch 1.
Yes. Well, because isn't Overwatch 1 ending? Like the servers are shutting down. You don't play
I can't imagine that would happen right away. I imagine those will stay open. But it's more like once I have Overwatch 2, I'm not really going to have a reason to go back and play Overwatch 1 for a while. And I'm going on vacation soon, which will basically snakes and ladders me, like get me straight up to the release of Overwatch 2.
Right.
We're recording this a little bit in advance in case that math doesn't quite check out for you guys.
He's going on a month-long vacation.
Yeah, full month. The problem is that, or I guess the benefit is, I'm obviously not going to play Overwatch while I'm on vacation. I don't see myself playing it in the next couple days. Yeah. And that kind of means I may never pick up Overwatch 1 again.
How do you feel about that?
Honestly, you're going to judge me for it, but like weirdly emotional. I've spent a lot of time with this game. I have a tattoo of Overwatch on me. I have Anna's aiming reticle on my arm. I wonder if I've showed that on the podcast here. Maybe they can see that.
There you go.
You can see that.
Wow.
And yes, it is the aiming reticle. It is not the outline of a stormtrooper's helmet, as much as people try to tell me it is.
Do people say that
a lot?
Oh boy.
Or they say, "What the fuck is that?" That's the other reaction. No, but it's bitter.
Did you also hate Rogue One? Oh boy, I don't really want to get into it.
No, it's strange because I didn't have a proper send off. I look back and I didn't have a proper send-off.
What do you do? Like a 21-gun salute as you walk away from the game? Like, what does this mean?
I was thinking you put me in a boat with a laptop playing, and then someone has a flaming arrow.
Hanzo fires a flaming arrow, headshots
you. Or whatever he says.
Yes.
But
I agree. It's a final send-off. That's so funny. So did you want to play one last perfect game? And then
see, that's the problem. There's no such thing. And that's why you keep playing Overwatch. Just because you're like, well, next game I'll do even better.
And that explains our heroin analogy earlier. Yes.
It's you play the perfect game, or you play a game where you kick ass, you're like, I'm on a heater, I need to get going. You play a bad game, you're like, well, I can't end on those terms. It just ends up, so you never feel good when you end Overwatch. You either want more for the reason of continuing this hot streak or want more to redeem yourself against the 13-year-olds who just slaughtered you. So we'll see. I'm excited for the release of Overwatch 2. It's very, very close now, so keep an eye out and an ear out for that episode when it launches. But there's a lot of other upcoming games, Andrew.
Oh, are there?
There are. And I'm thinking, do you want to go through with me and talk about some of the upcoming games and whether or not you're going to play them, what your thoughts are?
I would love to do this, Mikey.
I have heard. Have you heard this as well? Have you heard about this?
Have you heard about this?
Cars.
Denim, top to bottom.
Do you think Jay Leno has any of his cars upholstered with denim?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, of course. 100%.
Okay, wait a second.
I think the problem though is, I know this is why you guys came here to listen to us talk about Jay Leno. Is we have more thoughts about Jay Leno. He's in that very small section of things that we talk about all the time.
Yes.
Sophie's Choice, Jay Leno.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's Dense Ghost.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's Dense Ghost. Doubt.
Red Dead Redemption 2 and how it's overrated.
Yeah, well, that's one of us. Is that sentence was too long as well. He's so accurate to the car's times at the time. Like they're supposed to be historic recreations of the cars, or they're the actual car from the 1923. Right. 1923's fire truck or something like that. I don't think you'd be like, no, make it denim. Make it all denim.
I picture Jay Leno sitting in just an office tower, looking down on his city and his minions saying, make it denim. Like he's a fucking Batman villain.
Yeah. I like one of the guys at work. Clearly he has got employees of this shop, like holding a wrench like, Jay, I don't know if that, like, no, sorry, it's his band leader going like, Jay, I'm not so sure about that. And he's like, make it denim.
No, the band leader goes, all right, Jay. Boom. And then like magic streams out of his bass guitar.
Covers it in denim.
Covers everything in denim.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's our thoughts on Jay Leno and denim.
That's our thoughts on Jay Leno. Let's get to our thoughts on some of the upcoming releases. A game that we haven't talked about yet, but a big game for you. It's already out, but I'm curious to know, are you going to be playing this game? Out as of release of this podcast. Okay. So we're being a little magical right now.
Yes, just like Jay Leno's band leader.
Just like NBA 2K23.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I'm surprised I haven't pre-ordered it.
Oh, okay, amazing.
Yes,
amazing. Okay, so that's going to be.
Yeah, I can't help myself.
What do you get more excited for, the NBA franchise or the NFL franchise?
Recently, last 5 years, NBA for sure. NBA is the 2K franchise has absolutely taken strides to make the last version of it. The newest version better than the last version. And they've done that not always through gameplay. There has been some gameplay stuff that you're like, oh, cool, this is pretty good. But to be perfectly honest, I think the actual flow of 2K right now is really good. So they don't need to do too much. It's the expansion around the world that they've created. So when they created the playground or the neighborhood or whatever, and then it kind of grew from there. Last year it was a cruise ship. It's an area where you create your character and can go shop to shop, or play on the courts.
It's the overworld.
Yeah, it's like the meta, whatever it is, right? And that part is really cool. While not really the reason I play, I can understand why people have really devoted their whole personalities to spending time there.
Sure.
And I really think it's like taking itself outside of being a sports game and into like whatever Fortnite is or whatever this is, where you create a personality and are able to just live online and do stuff through one of your favorite activities.
So here's my concern, because the NHL franchise is really playing keep up. It's trying to keep up with those advancements in its franchise. The Be a Pro mode is still very bare bones. You can develop a little bit more of a personality, but nowhere near what this is, where you have like an avatar and you ride around on a fucking scooter and you can dress in whatever you want. Doing little dances. Isn't it heartbreaking year after year to have to say goodbye to everything you've built up? And this goes back to what I always say about sports games.
You do say this.
Wouldn't it be better to have this subscription service where it's ongoing? And I know where either you pay for it once or a free-to-play model, where they're constantly updating the mechanics of the game, much like Overwatch. Here's an introduction to a new mechanic or whatever it is. They do that, but now you don't have to year after year say goodbye. Two thoughts on it. One is for Ultimate Team, the cards. That is a huge moneymaker for them, and I think for that reason alone, they would never do this.
Yes,
but for the consumer, wouldn't you want a thread that you could draw from, like, hey, this has been my character since 2016 or something,
yeah.
or whatever. And how do you get around a character who's already maxed out all their stats? Do what you do in like Call of Duty, where you get to like you prestige basically. You have to now start back, and then you have a number of stars based on how many times you've reset. Like there is something there. There's something to it.
No, I think you're exactly right, and I think video games are going this way one way or another.
Right.
It's just going to happen slowly, and I think sports are going to be one of the last vestiges to change because the sales are still so high on yearly games at $70, $80, whatever it's going to be, that I think it'll be tough to change. But I agree with you because they make so much money in game.
Yeah,
that that's going to be the real the real money making instead of actually selling retail and digital copies of the actual game.
It feels like that model has kind of been proven. Okay, so NBA 2K23, you're in on.
Totally.
You're in on. One day we should sit down. I'd love for you to let me play that game a little bit. Because I used to play NBA 2K, literally NBA 2K2 was one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
Now we're talking 20 years later. I barely played the game. But
was that Allen Iverson?
Good question.
I don't know why I said something that I don't know why I put you on the spot there. But yes, I'd love to do that. Actually, there's a series of games that we want to do. There's a series of podcasts we want to do where you show me something you love that I've never played, and I show you something I love that you've never played.
It is Allen Iverson.
Oh, hey,
good call.
Wow.
Well done.
Hey. Really proud of myself out of nowhere, even though I completely lucked into that one. And so I think 2K would be a great series for that. Dark Souls would be a good series for that too. Fortnite would be a good series for that.
Honestly,
you and
I haven't gotten into Fortnite. Believe it or not, haven't played Fortnite. Let's say FIFA 23 is coming out September 30th.
Okay.
Any interest in the FIFA franchise?
No, thank you.
A big one. Did you hear the story where it accidentally released to people who pre-ordered it 30 days prior to the release? I think it was like August 30th. Yeah. There was like some glitch or something, and people were playing it. They got essentially a full preview of what the game's going to be.
Somebody's getting fired.
Someone's probably already gotten fired.
Yeah. FIFA's a great game.
Is David Beckham.
Oh my God.
It was his fault.
Really?
Yeah, he bent the rules like Beckham, and he released it early.
Absolutely. You can't do that, David.
Can't do it, David.
No, just FIFA's great. FIFA's a great game.
Yeah.
People really love those games. I think it's just mostly that it's not one of my favorite sports, and so therefore...
I hear you on that one. I do love football.
Oh, here we go.
What?
Nothing. Football.
No, what? What's wrong with that?
I'm just saying there was a football game that came out recently, and I don't think they make 2 Maddens in a year. So, here we go. Yeah. Oh, you elitist scum.
You mean American football?
This is the same impression you do when we do the wine cellar.
Same person.
I mean, yeah, it's the same person. An asshole.
Yes.
Yes, I mean American football. I'm so sorry.
I'm talking about, how do I explain this to a layman?
Football.
Football. Yes. Because in your version, how do you take the ball from one part of the field to the other?
Well, you can throw it, you can run it.
Oh, what do you throw it with?
You could punt it.
Oh, you can.
I'm trying my best here.
What do you throw it with?
You throw it with your hands, your arm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Is that sound weird to you?
No, I didn't hear anything. What happened? Yeah.
It's wow. I didn't even think about this ever in my life before.
Right.
But why is that called football?
There's kicking field goals. There's punting the ball.
It starts with a kick. So that's the main part of the game then.
It is a part of the game.
Sorry, did you say the main part of the game?
Yeah, it's a part of the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's like there's huge parts of soccer. I'm so sorry. That must hurt your ears.
I'm not even sure what that is.
There's huge parts of soccer that's not in the actual name of football. Like
what?
Diving. Complain to the refs.
You know what? Good point.
I don't want to be this person. I hate being a Western person that is like, all they can do is dive and complain to the refs, and then you turn on a basketball game and you're like, getting closer.
Getting closer.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, yes.
I understand though.
You like soccer though.
I do like football.
Yes. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll do this game with you. You like football. Do you have any interest in playing FIFA?
I've played it. I find it one of the most frustrating games of all time. It is great.
Okay.
But the mechanics are so fleshed out that it's expecting way too much for me. So for me to enter, I didn't get into football until 7, 8, actually probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So at that time I was still playing the NHL franchise religiously. to enter into the realm of a new sports game. I don't think I bought my first FIFA game until I got it as a launch title on Xbox One. So that was kind of it. And it was just too hard for me. And that was the time when the Kinect was on and I kept swearing at my TV and I got fired as the manager for my fucking team because the Kinect would listen for you yelling and would like reprimand you as the manager saying like, don't do that.
But yet every week I see highlights of soccer managers nearly rioting on the field together. And I'm like,
you're doing your job.
Yeah. It's always like a handshake that is like, oh, that was so aggressive. It's always like, oh, I can't believe they shook hands like that. It's like, oh, what is this sport?
It's a gentleman's sport, man. Overwatch 2, October 4th. We've already talked about that. NHL
episode.
23 on October 23rd. Yeah. I'm not going to get it either, to be honest.
Okay, I wait for it to go on sale. I wait for I'm not in a huge rush to do that. I'm a huge fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know how much of a hockey fan I am anymore. I don't know. This is like a personal thing now.
No, I get that.
You know, like just only because I love sports. Obviously, I love the NFL. I love NBA. And if you want to hear me talk sports, I have a podcast about it. But is that losing money with Andrew Bascom starting this week? Obviously, it goes on all year. But this is a big week with the NFL starting in week 3 now or week 2. And so I love sports, and I will watch a late night. Oh, the Cardinals and the Broncos are playing on Monday Night Football. Oh, I gotta watch this. This is great.
Sure.
And even to be honest, I usually work late nights, and so like, oh, the Nuggets Warriors are playing or whatever like that.
Those West Coast games.
100%. And I'm in basketball, I can't wait to watch that. But if somebody's like Sharks Oilers, I'm like, fuck no. I'm not watching that.
Hockey to me is much more team focused. I have a team. I will watch that team.
And you know what's like that too? Baseball now. Baseball's all regional. You just watch your own team, and you don't. But it's the same thing. Like Padres,
they play
Rockies.
Every fucking night, so
they play so much. It's crazy. Yes.
So I will likely be skipping NHL 23 as well. I played 22. I talked about that on I think last week's or the week before episode. So go listen to that if you want to hear my thoughts on the NHL franchise as it currently stands. PGA Tour 2K23 October 14th.
So Tiger Woods is on the cover this year.
On the cover.
I think I will be getting this game. Tiger Woods and Tony Hawk have this weird connection in my life where I have played those games so much. I've played the cumulative number of hours is an Overwatch level for me. So if this can be anything recreating what I used to play the hell out of Tiger Woods, I will absolutely be buying this game.
It's a little bit of a coup, that he's on the 2K version. Granted, he's going to be on the only licensed golf game, so it's not like he's looking at EA and being like, well, Tiger Woods doesn't exist, and now I'm, Rory McIlroy on the cover of Tiger Woods 2000 whatever.
That's what they used to do. It was so weird.
It was so weird.
And then like whatever, I can't wait for Live Golf's video game they're going to put out or something like that.
Oh, Phil Mickelson on the cover.
Yeah, Phil Mickelson smoking a cigarette, taking cash, just tons of cash. It's covered in blood.
Did you played last year's PGA Tour?
I did. It was interesting. That's another game that absolutely should be free to play.
Right.
And then you can just like buy weird pants and stuff like that.
Yes.
Because it felt weirdly clinical where like, and to be honest, that's what golf is.
Yes.
It's very like, golf is since the beginning of video games entirely on PC and stuff, golf has always done well since the early 80s because it's such a like stop. Now swing, now hit ball, now watch, now stop again. It's like a perfect sport. Same reason why Madden always kind of works really well.
Unless you're playing hot shots, then you sprint after that fucking ball. I love that.
But I'm just saying, it's like it works really well.
Yes.
And it should be, but you worry that when they try and add some, pizzazz to it or something like that, it loses what sport you're actually playing in the first place. And so it's a very thin line.
So thin blue line, your favorite types of lines, right?
Yeah, no, I'm more of a thin red line guy from 1998.
Yes, yes. Where Woody Harrelson's... Wasn't it Woody Harrelson?
Oh, no, that's Owen Wilson you're thinking of.
No, that's behind enemy lines.
Yeah, thank you
behind
very much.
enemy thin red lines.
Wow, that's amazing. You and I were exactly on top of each other with that. Okay, yes.
No, the thinking behind that... fucking hell.
Pizzazz.
Pizzazz, right. Okay, so we talked recently in an episode. Pizzazz, that was the one. About how, people are frustrated with like Madden and NHL because they don't change that much about the games year to year. But it's like, is it possible that with our current capabilities in sports games that we've kind of peaked a little bit? You can't change the whole formula. And I think golf, like you said, being so stop and start, being not quite as like physics oriented or interactions between two large bodies moving at speed, how much different can you make it? Everyone thinks we want, like you said, to chase that Hanzo's Dragon of the Tiger Woods franchise and say like this was the best that it's ever been, whatever. Maybe it is. Maybe that's true. What Tiger Woods 07, I think something honestly, like that was kind of the peak.
Because I made a joke the other week about like when we talked about sports games, we were talking about Madden. Like, well, year to year, it's like, oh, they improved the graphics. Like, well, who cares? They all look pretty good. That might be literally what it's down to. Acquiring more licensed courses, acquiring more licensed golfers from history. And that's about it because the controls are nearly perfect. Just a 3-button swing or you use your joystick. That's not going to change anything.
You know what's going to change things? And it goes back to the first thing you said about this. It's Tiger Woods on the fucking cover.
Absolutely.
It's going to make this game sell twice as much as it did last year. Like legitimately maybe twice as much as it did last year.
I think Justin Thomas was on the cover last year. I think
yeah.
Tiger Woods will sell more than Justin Thomas.
He absolutely will. Gotham Knights on October 21st.
Oh, yeah. Mikey, I'm going to buy that game.
So we should make sure we get it on the same console because there's a lot of online co-op. There's a lot. I feel like that would be a fun thing. Yeah. Gotham Knights is a very, obviously, I'm pretty sure it's Rocksteady, the same kind of mechanics and gameplay as the Arkham series.
Cool.
No Batman that you play as, at least. You play as some of the external ancillary characters in the Gotham world, and you kind of can enter into each other's worlds and fight crimes like simultaneously. You can be in my world whether I'm with you or not. This has kind of come out in some of the preview builds where it's like you can be off in Wayne Tower and I can be off in Arkham. And we can kind of like meet up, or like I can see you doing something on a building. Like, who the fuck is that in my world? And like go join you. The closer I get to this game, the more excited I am. I was not excited when it was first announced. But the closer we get, I'm like, you know what? I love the gameplay of the Arkham games. Not being Batman is a big deal to me. I want to be Batman every day. So I don't know if this is going to keep my attention. But now, I've got a Batman mug that Andrew's drinking out of right now. Which, by the way, when you're done with that, may I have it back?
We'll see.
Okay.
I throw it to the ground. You hold it like pearls in your hand. And you're,
I, by the way, have an Overwatch mug. So
there you go.
Well.
Yeah, perfect. So wait, you can't play Batman, but can you play like Batgirl, Nightwing?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those kind of characters.
You play a lot of the ancillary characters
Robin.
there. Kind of like how in the Arkham games you would go Catwoman, you could go you could play as God, what's the guy's name? Who the Crusader guy? I should know this. I can't remember.
I know. I know. Red Hood or
Red. No, you can play as Red Hood in Gotham Knights as well. But there were all these different characters that. Cool. So I'm excited for it. I've kind of low stakes. If it's bad, I'm not going to be offended as a Batman fan. I'm excited they're going for something new.
Yeah, but the Batman Rocksteady games have been amazing. So
yes, they have.
There's a lot of built-in trust there.
I agree. Bayonetta 3 coming out October 28th. I want to mention it. I'm probably not going to play it. I've never played a Bayonetta game in spite of the fact that everyone says that I should. They look like great games. Big sexy hottie covered in hair because her outfit is made of hair.
Oh, okay. I thought she was furry.
She
might be. Who knows? She might be a furry on her off time. That means dressing up as a mascot.
No, I know that.
And scritching.
Andrew, trust me, I know that. And what?
Scritching.
What is scritching?
The sex.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, you know what's funny? There was a period in my life where CSI was the most popular show on television, and they would just kind of go like, what is the weirdest thing we could think of? And so it's like furries, or, can you believe people live online in this game? And then they killed someone online in this game.
Right.
It's always like a week-to-week thing of teaching people, like parents in the Midwest, what to be afraid of. And then it's like every week it's like, your cell phone can kill you, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Do you know people are online? Yeah, sunglasses come off. Obviously, that's Miami. I don't care.
Hey, by the way, who is the what's an owl's favorite TV show?
What's an owl's favorite TV show? Who? His line isn't anyway.
See, that's a much better answer.
Okay, cool. Good job, Owl.
Fuck.
So, yeah, but I remember a lot of these like weird now info things just because CSI taught me to be afraid of it. And I was like, that's interesting. And it retained in part of my brain.
I am afraid of it.
Yeah, I can't remember my 4th grade teacher's name anymore, but I remember scritching. So
I remember your 4th grade teacher's name.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Moving on from that, Bayonetta 3, November 8th, we have Sonic Frontiers.
Okay.
I am reserving judgment. Do I have faith that it's going to be good? Not really. Apparently, I didn't read an article on it. I just saw a side-by-side video of the Sonic game that was made in Dreams on PlayStation, which is basically like making an open-world Sonic game or like a 3D Sonic game, was amazing. And one of the levels in Sonic Frontiers, because when Frontiers was first, it's like the quote-unquote Breath of the Wild version of Sonic.
Oh,
okay. You can go anywhere, do anything, 3D.
Oh, I saw this.
And everyone's like, why didn't you just make the Dreams version? Because that looks fantastic. And the 3D version of Frontiers, although they were explicit in their trailer to say, alpha, pre-alpha, whatever, like this is not a finished product. It's come out that one of the levels, they ran it side by side to one of the levels that was made in Dreams, and it's like 1-to-1. Like it's the same thing. So it's like, were the developers of Frontiers looking at Dreams and basically just taking assets from it? And if so, can there be any recourse? Because probably not. Because Dreams is borrowing from Sonic, and then Sonic is borrowing back from whoever made that in Dreams. Like, I don't know.
Jeez,
no recourse there.
I did see that video, and it's weird.
It is weird.
It's like I feel like we've lost the thread on what Sonic is. And you know what?
100%.
I will be the first one to claim that, like, my idea of Sonic, and probably yours,
yes,
is those Genesis like flat, running around stuff like that.
Yeah.
And once it went to 3D, I kind of lost, and he's into human women, and that's weird. He's got a handgun all of a sudden. And
yeah, my image of Sonic was definitely I think it peaked with Shadow the Hedgehog. Like, if my hedgehog isn't gripping an Uzi sideways, why am I playing this game?
Yeah. I lost it even when Knuckles showed up. He's like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And I'm like, no, whoa, just get in a race or something. He's like, no, I'm gonna kick the living shit out of you, Sonic.
I'm as strong as Sonic is fast. I always actually like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a good idea.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, I feel like we lost the thread of what made Sonic such an iconic figure in the first place. And I understand I am talking about 10% of now 100% history of Sonic.
Sure.
But still at the same time.
Well, I would argue
that
the 10% is the good percent, and the 90% is just failing and tripping over itself time and time again. Yeah. Like, early 90s, early to mid 90s, Sonic was great.
Yeah, and we've loved some Sonic games.
We loved some Sonic games, including Sonic Spinball, which a lot of people didn't like.
I really liked it.
What has it? I mean, I loved Sonic Adventure when it first came out.
Yes.
That notoriously does not hold up very well anymore. We did that on the podcast as well, and it did not hold up very well. So I want them to find the thread. I want them to knock this one out of the park. I'd love for it to be good, but it looks like in order for them to try to pull back some fandom on this one, just copying Breath of the Wild is not going to do it. No. And I don't know that that's going to work. So we'll see, but
bringing reality to Sonic, like bringing the real world to Sonic, is not something I'm very interested in. And to be perfectly honest, not something I'm interested in with Mario either. And I think maybe there's something about these games that exist in another world, and then when they're like, oh, it's kind of like our world, they're like, no, don't do that.
So
like
in Mario, when they brought him to New Donk City,
I don't like New Donk City.
You know, it
makes me uncomfortable.
I actually liked it. Yeah, because it wasn't a major part of the game. It was just cool for this one little bit to see like a fully proportioned human man in a fedora and a suit. I was like, this is actually kind of interesting. It's the one thing we haven't seen for Mario.
I get that. I didn't like that his hat's been alive the whole time. I didn't. So when was I supposed to know that? When are his shoes alive? When his overalls alive?
Cappy is new. This was not the same Cap.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what happens in this.
Are we gonna wreck on things? I go back to Super Mario World 3. I fall off a cliff and I lose 4 lives, and I'm like, what the fuck else is going on here? My hat's alive. My shoes. I don't believe anything I'm saying here.
That would suck. No. Okay. So let's move quickly because I do want to get to Oddworld.
Go.
God of War Ragnarok on November 9th.
Oh, Mikey, this is the one we can't talk about. We have complicated feelings about God of War.
We do.
We never finished God of War 3.
God of War. God of War, essentially 4. The reset of God of War.
Yes, on the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Not the Xbox One, just PS4. It's a PlayStation exclusive.
Oh, it is. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry about that. And I apologize to everyone. But we had trouble with it, even though that's some people's favorite game of all time.
Yes.
And so this new one coming out must be one of the most anticipated game for a large population.
Legitimately seems that way.
Play video games. Here's the problem though. I'm probably going to buy this game and play it.
I 100% am buying this game.
Fucking hell.
That's it.
I'm just realizing this now.
I knew from the beginning I was going to get it, and this is coming from someone who had some fun moments with God of War. God of War 1 to 3, some of my favorite games of all time. Did not like the re-release as much as everyone else does. I'm totally okay. I'm not blasting anyone because I think there's a lot there. It's just not my game.
Yeah, for sure.
Ragnarok feels like I just feel like I have to be a part of the conversation. I have to give it another shot. Although I thought that was going to be the case with Horizon Forbidden West, and I didn't end up buying that game either.
No, and that game went away pretty fast.
Weirdly, it did, right?
I don't know why that is.
Didn't Elden Ring come out very shortly after?
Elden Ring has eaten a lot of people's lunches this year. You could just tell. It just took up so much oxygen.
Yeah.
That maybe that's part of it. You know, maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I know you're not a big open world guy, like in general. You don't like when things are tremendously large in open world, and I think that's maybe the issue with God of War for you. And maybe even why you're a little you love
Elden Ring. No, that is
but you're a little
absolutely why I fundamentally love all of the Dark Souls games, Bloodborne as well. maybe even Demon Souls more than Elden Ring.
Wow.
And yet I love Elden Ring.
Yeah, you love Elden Ring.
Just
Whoa.
yeah.
Sick 'em.
Last one is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on November 18th. I know you're not much of a Nintendo guy these days, but we have to mention it.
Oh
Obviously.
yeah. I'm not much of a Pokemon guy either. Like, I love Pokemon.
Yeah.
We talk about Pokemon all the fucking time.
Yes.
But this is another one that I feel like it's like a Sonic thing
Yes.
where like it just kept expanding and I stayed little and I was like, oh, have fun, everybody.
Well, the thing is,
I'll be over
everyone
here.
else loves all the Pokemon games.
Yes.
I think that they need to take bigger swings, and I want to talk about chasing the dragon. Like, I buy Pokemon games often.
Yeah.
And I never play more than like 6 or 7 hours then.
Yeah.
I just want to love it the way I loved Red and Blue.
Yes.
And it's never going to happen.
Even Silver and Gold.
Even Silver and Gold.
I like Silver and Gold. But the problem is like, but that's true. I when I was a kid, maybe it just caught me at us at the right time. We were the
Yes.
first generation of Pokemon that came to the
Sure.
came to the West. And I always loved it, like, oh yeah, so that's a Charmander. Okay, that's great. Absolutely. And then somebody's like, this is a Bleep Bloop. It's a flower. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, fuck you.
Like, why is all of a sudden the ones I knew, they're just as silly. They're stupid.
100%.
But
It's
the
a magnet.
Yeah, it's a magnet. This
a
one's
magnet.
a bomb. Like, and these are new ones. I'm like, get the hell, this is a beaver? Get out of here.
Hey, Bidoof, you keep Bidoof's
We
good
love
name out of your
Bidoof.
fucking mouth.
We
I
do.
love Bidoof.
We played the new Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
We caught so many Bidoofs.
We caught a ton of Bidoofs.
Ooh,
Not
Bidoof.
even just Pokemon Snap. We played Arceus.
Oh, we had
Or
Arceus.
depending on how
Excuse
you
me.
pronounce
That's
it.
what, yes.
We
That was
caught a
Arceus.
ton of Bidoof.
Yes.
And I always name my Bidoof Big Doofus. It's great. It's a great
I
name.
love the idea, like, Bidoof, go get him. You like Bidoof's fancy. You're like, here we go. More Bidoof. Like 6 Bidoofs in your bag.
I'm one of those trainers.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always get those trainers in the Pokemon games.
You are
that
bug
like,
catcher.
yeah, I'm bug catcher. Exactly. Here's 9 Weedles, even though I can
Yes.
only have 6 of them.
Huh, that Bidoof failed. Interesting. New strategy. Bidoof.
But throw your Charizard at me. I dare you.
Oh, Bidoof will eat
I'm
him up.
still annihilating him with my
it's
level
also-
8 Bidoof.
Yeah, and when I win, that's the noise I make too. I'm like, hey, nice try. Bidoof. It's great. It's the greatest. Bidoof is the fucking best.
I actually surgically implanted big buck teeth on me so I could look more like my animals.
Well, you'd be the Pokemaniac that you sometimes face.
Yes.
Where they weirdly have a psychosexual relationship with those Pokemon.
I don't know if I'd call it psycho.
I mean, mental, mental sexual.
I would just call it sexual.
Physiosexual. Physics. They're actually having sex with these Pokemon.
They're scritching.
Yeah.
They're scritching hard. Okay, let's move on to speaking of weird sex things. How about we sew our mouths shut?
Oh, okay. I'm going to unzip my mouth like the Gimp in Pulp Fiction. Time to play the game.
We're looking at Oddworld's Abe's Oddysee. It came out in 1997, September 19th, 1997. So, Andrew, we are looking at the 25th anniversary of
Oh
this.
my God.
30.
Wait,
Help me out.
What year
Help
was
me out with
this?
this? 25th anniversary.
The 25th anniversary of
1997.
What, 1997?
Yes.
Yeah, that's 25.
Good.
Yeah. Good. I'm testing you.
You're right. For PlayStation 1 and Windows, it was created by Sherry McKenna and Lorne Lanning, who founded to create this game, Oddworld Inhabitants. And now that's where I want to spend the bulk of my time with my thesis, talking about the creation and development of this game. If I mentioned the name, and I do want to say Sherry McKenna is also a very prominent figure in the gaming space as well, but Lorne Lanning was the one who was kind of looked at as one of the biggest names for a long time. Lorne Lanning was a personality. He was being interviewed. He had foresight. This was like kind of the era where even guys like Dennis Dyack and Gabe Newell, there were at John Carmack, like Cliff Blazinski, celebrity video game developers were much more prominent, I think, than they are now. You got Kojima, and you've still got some people nowadays that people look to say like, oh, those are the guys. But now it's more development companies. Back then they were auteurs more commonly, and Lorne Lanning was one of them. And if you heard that name and your thought is, as the listener, oh fuck, I wonder what happened to Lorne Lanning. Guess what? A lot of people wonder what happened to Lorne Lanning, and we're going to get into some of his history a little bit because it's somewhat fascinating.
All right.
A guy who was synonymous with the development of video games and who had vision for what gaming should be. Him and his team, along with Sherry McKenna at Oddworld Inhabitants, published by GT Interactive, I'll say. So Oddworld Inhabitants, the name of the company, their idea was to start off as a multimedia group. They wanted to make movies, they wanted to make TV shows, they wanted to make video games, they wanted to maybe do some comics. Lorne Lanning himself was a painter. He got into computer design and saw its potential and tried to find jobs in it. And obviously not a ton of people were hiring in the 80s for graphic design. So he decided to start his own company or start to look about what they can do. Eventual games that Oddworld Inhabitants made, Abe's Oddysee Abe's Exodus, and I should say all these games the title is Oddworld, comma, and then these
colon.
Sorry, yes. Abe's Oddysee, Abe's Exodus, Munch's Odyssey, Stranger's Wrath, New and Tasty, which is just a remake of Abe's Odyssey.
New and Tasty,
which is a remake of Abe's Odyssey. Soulstorm, which I believe is a remake of a retelling of Abe's Exodus. But as of Stranger's Wrath, you'll notice that was the last one that wasn't a remake.
Yeah.
Because since 2005, essentially all they've done is remakes.
Okay.
And between 2005 and 2010, they didn't do anything. So what happened?
Yeah.
Essentially what happened is Lorne Lanning and Sherry, they create this company. They make this game, Oddworld's Abe's Oddysee, with this heavy focus on storytelling, graphics. It was known for its cinematics. It won awards for its voice acting. It was very prominent in this space, kind of like Michel Ancel's Rayman, where it's like, hey, let's not have the focus necessarily be on platforming and gameplay. There's much more to the gaming experience than just that, right? When you think about that, what are some of the games that you've played that are almost good in spite of bland gameplay? You know, the experience.
Bioshock.
Great point.
Bioshock is one of my favorite games of all time. So I feel like it's coming from a good place to be like, I'm going to take a shot at it. But I don't think you play it and go like, fuck yeah, what a great shooter. And
100%.
That was, the controls are so great. But the story is so devastating. Like it affects your whole perception of what video games are as entirely, that you want someone to play it just so you can get through the story.
Yes.
I think
the environment, the design,
for sure. Yeah. And I don't want to always make it that like it's fourth wall breaking, that's why it's interesting.
Sure.
But obviously that's a huge part of Bioshock. And then I would say the same thing with Earthworm Jim as well.
Okay, great.
Where it's making you question like when they went, I just keep thinking about like that trivia segment with
in Earthworm Jim 2.
Yes. And we did the trivia segment and it's like none of the questions make any sense. And it doesn't matter if you get them right. And it's almost just like a big trip, you know, like I think that's so cool. You got any?
Yeah. Oh man, a ton. And I think Earthworm Jim is definitely one of them. Bioshock is not one that I'd think of because it's all so wrapped up in the overall experience that you forget that the actual individual shooting mechanics are pretty tough.
I honestly, sorry, just to say that like you almost forget, like I remember trying to get my player one to play it and she found it too spooky, but
it is spooky.
The opening especially is incredibly scary with the splicer. And that's as far as we can get, but is that you forget, you pick up a gun and then you shoot and you're like, oh yeah, right. I almost have blanked that part of the experience of playing Bioshock completely out of my mind.
Sure.
Where like picking up a Tommy gun is like an important part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not just sticking bees on people.
The bees and what it means to upgrade yourself with plasmids thematically as opposed to just from gameplay mechanics. I mean, you hit on a lot of good ones. Overall experience, you know, I'd even say something like the remake of Streets of Rage or something like that. You know, I no longer love that beat 'em up style, but I loved the art design and I'd love to play more of it just to experience the music, the action, the gameplay. Shredder's Revenge, maybe even similarly, although I loved the gameplay. I did, more of it is about living in that arcade era, sort of with that new fresh coat of paint and with new life breathed into it.
Okay.
So that's kind of the vibe that they had here. But they took a break from the industry in 2005 after Stranger's Wrath. And essentially the reason is Abe's Oddysee comes out. According to Lorne Lanning, they had their projected sales expectations and they doubled them. When Abe's Exodus came out, they had their projections of what they were expected to sell. And they were twice as much as what they eventually sold. And that's basically, you know, out of Lorne's hand at that point. He can make the game, but there's only so much he can do to actually sell it and market it. Stranger's Wrath, he said, was about, the expectation was about 3 times as much as what he felt he could reasonably get just based on making a game. He's dealing with EA at the time. EA has their marketing budget. They can put only so much of an effort into it, and yet they're saying, create this game and go sell the copies. And he's saying, well, you need to advertise the game. I'm making it. You have to sell it. He butted heads quite a bit with it, the way that it was marketed, the way that it was released in different countries. And then he was ultimately sort of made a pariah by EA because the game didn't sell as well, in spite of the fact that that Stranger's Wrath was one of the more unique games I think that's come out in the last 20 years. I think that it was very well received by people who were in games journalism at the time, and everyone was kind of wondering, like, why isn't this game doing better? There was just something preventing it from reaching that next step, and it seems like that's that Lorne was saying it was ill-advised marketing attempts on behalf of EA.
Okay.
And then him being penalized for it.
Yes.
So it came out in later interviews that this is kind of what happened. You know, fans thought, and people who were wondering what happened when eventually Oddworld Inhabitants disbanded at kind of the height of, you know, everyone's looking at them like, make new games. You like, Lorne, you're being interviewed on what you think the future of games should be. You're creating these unique spaces. It seems like you're this bastion of creativity and uniqueness in a space that's already sort of gearing more towards the reliance on sequels and AAA titles. He felt like a savior in that sense. Honestly, much like a Michel Ancel in some ways. Oh. So it's no wonder why these people seem to get buried eventually, because they can't compete with like the larger companies unless they play ball with them. So the whole industry was taken aback, and it turns out it does have a lot to do with this marketing issue and the financial space of having these expectations put on him that he didn't want and that were unrealistic. And then him doing the thing that he thought he loved with his Merry Band of Pranksters and Oddworld Inhabitants when they did Abe's Oddysee, kind of like on their own pirate radio thing, just putting it out and selling. And now all of a sudden he's doing it for a corporation that's not holding up their end of the bargain, and then using him as the whipping boy. There's this interesting quote that he had where he said, in the financial space, and this was, I think, like 2012 or so. This is several years after they disbanded. In the financial space, they don't talk about how many games got lost in the distribution company's warehouse when commercials were running. Or the next game, how many territories were lost because of poor strategy by a console's install that completely missed our number one performing territory. Or the fourth game that completely missed our the fourth game, how many series of controls happen when we're supposed to have multi-skewed product. We don't have it. Then we wind up with zero marketing campaign and exposure. None of that is written in the financial history books. We're looking at that as creators, and we don't believe that this is what we should have happened, but we understand why it did, and we can understand that these were factors completely beyond our control. Essentially to say, we made the game. Copies get lost in a warehouse. Marketing things are missed. Install bases of new consoles aren't hit. And that's all the publisher's problem, not ours. Yeah. Why are we left holding the bag? So it feels like it's just complete frustration in general. And you're starting to see this moment where, like happened in the movie space as well, there's these auteurs who are just kind of weighed down by the expectations of a production company and given unrealistic expectations. Do you ever wonder what gaming could have been like? Or do you think it's even possible that gaming gets to be what it is today without the big hand of AAA titles? Or do you think every entertainment medium is eventually just going to hit this point?
Well, I think we've seen this modern generation with every medium kind of getting into this. Yeah. It folds into itself, and it can only be, you know, the largest brands or, you know, the Marvel movie that is the Star Wars. You need a tentpole to keep so many industries up, instead of this idea where, like, you know, in the 50s and stuff, there was cinemas running almost all day. Yeah. And they would have different movies every, you know, and that was the appeal. Or you'd start to see like dramas, you know, be like, you know, a very like normal, you know what I mean? Nothing too incredible.
Doesn't take any leaps to
you're like, Kramer versus Kramer was the biggest selling movie of the year, kind of thing. You're like, whoa, that's crazy. And instead, of course, we're not going to see that now. It's got to be a franchise that comes out every year for gaming or movies or anything like that. And it bums you out because this monoculture is kind of bad, even though we lose a lot of this monoculture in the modern society. But at the same time, I feel like there will be a reset of some capacity, and then we'll do things. But I don't think video games are unique in this way. I think it's all gone this way.
It's a shame to see that this is what happens when enough money and attention gets thrown at a medium.
100%. Yeah.
And they will find their way, like movies do as well. yeah.
They do, you know.
In like independent developers and titles coming out that are, you know, and also I know it gets a lot of flack, and we talked about this in our episode of focused on Stray. You know, we look at subscription services, and some of us are like, oh, what is this doing to the industry? I don't know if this is good. Don't know if this is bad. But it is also exposing a lot of smaller companies that may not have had the ability to make a AAA game or put out a AAA game. And the only reason a lot of people are going to try it is because it's essentially free for them if they've already got the subscription.
And I understand that, like, you know, everyone has Netflix at home, or they have, you know, their PlayStation, you know, premium membership, whatever it is. You know, your ability to access these things has never been greater.
Sure.
It's up to them to either highlight these games or be able to find them, or what their interface looks like. And then it's up to your point to do some research and to find these games. That is where I think the gap is still on both of these, you know, pretty much everything.
Comes out just like when we're dealing with Oddworld, marketing is that much of an issue. Absolutely. And you can't blame the developers for it. Let's talk then specifically about Oddworld's Abe's Oddysee, a game that I got as a kid because my mom and dad were on vacation. and they wanted to bring me back like a souvenir or something.
They buy you back a video game?
They bought me back a video game.
The hell?
They went to a game store and they're like, we don't know what the fuck to get. We know he's got a PlayStation. What do we do? And the guy's like, this game is fucking kick ass. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Brought it home. I didn't know what the fuck it was. Although I knew you could burp. I knew you could fart.
Nice.
I knew you could run around. It was crazy designs. I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
It was hard as shit. I remember that. But I also remember being completely enamored by it.
Yes.
Feeling like I was playing something unlike anything I'd ever played before. Did you play much of this game?
No, I never played a lot of this game. I probably will. I will probably recuse myself of giving it a judgment before I get to play the game.
Sure. So for your subjective score of playing it back when it first came out.
Exactly. Yeah. I do like though that Lorne like making these big arguments about like, you know, the marketing budget failed and the update wasn't good. I need more of these children to play this burping farting game. And I don't understand what is everyone laughing for? What are we doing? This is my life.
It's art.
This is
what did you laugh when Booger Man came out?
Yeah, exactly.
A pick and flick adventure?
This is art and people need to play it and you guys are fucking stop burping for a second. You guys are fucking up. You're like, I love that. That's so good. But I'm trying to make it incredibly clear. He's got a point.
Yes, he does have a point. Burping is funny.
Burping is funny. It's hilarious.
Funny. Let's talk about a little bit of the story here. You're Abe. You are what is called a Mudokon. It's a slave at Rupture Farms. So you're a species of animal that's a slave in like a meat packing area kind of. And you find out, kind of like, you know, a lot of these stories, the food is the slave. You know, a lot of your kin are being slaughtered. You are being
Soylent Green is people.
Soylent Green is people. Exactly.
Yes,
That's exactly. Yes. So, I mean, we've heard this story before. Had we heard about it in video games? Maybe not quite as much.
No.
You know, sort of a new attempt there. You escape and you are attempting to free all of your Mudokon brethren along the way. You have a little bit of telepathy.
Oh.
So you could control some of the enemies. You can communicate to some of your own people within your party.
Other Mudokons.
Other Mudokons. You can tell them to do like almost like lemmings when you are one lemming. So you can tell them to march, you can tell them to jump, you can tell them to hit switches, this and that.
Yeah.
The game really reminds me, and this is weird, but going back to it, it has, I feel like you can draw a specific comparison to the likes of Limbo, Inside, all these kind of 2D platformers, Little Nightmares and other ones that we did on this podcast, where it's 2D and there are these set pieces of these puzzles, and they can be very graphic. It's like, get through this. Otherwise, the damage and the penalty is a gruesome death for your character, something like that. I mean, it also just the pacing of it. All this kind of, it feels like Abe's Oddysee did it well before the likes of Limbo. And I like to think of it that way because, you know, when we were talking about a game to do this week and I brought up Oddworld Abe's Oddysee, you're like, fuck yeah, I remember that game. Like what? But like not, it doesn't come to the front of your mind.
No.
Almost similar to Rayman, where like except you know Rayman as a name more.
Actually, I will say in both instances, I know what the main character looks like, but then I was like, then what do you do?
Yes, yeah.
Right, because like Abe is a pretty identifiable character, I think at least.
I think so.
You know, with the sewn mouth and the
ponytail, he looks like a shrunken head.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So like that part of it, you're like, right, I know that.
Yes.
Then what do you do? And so I'm very curious and very, very happy that we're going to go back and play this game.
I'm excited to do that. The development, weirdly, for a game, we never talk about this, but it was relatively smooth for a game. Started in 95. They would demo it, changed names a couple times, but it came out. And I always wonder, you know, working in like a smaller independent studio on a game that was smooth production because you didn't have producers telling you what needed to happen or limiting you or forcing you or pressing your hand, whatever. Right. You create a really successful game, then all of a sudden you're working for a larger company. Expectations are higher and it all goes downhill. That frustration has to be not just the lack of success for Stranger's Wrath. It has to be the change in what his life was like. Right. The expectation to sell, the not knowing, the releasing, the, you know, knowing that it's beyond your control at that point. That must have been one of the reasons why he backed out and then kind of only focused on remakes once they came back and started making games again in 2010.
Right. That makes sense.
An interesting bit before we get on to the reception of this game. So the marketing of, I know marketing is like the buzzword of the day, but there was a very strange marketing attempt, and this is going to hit at a divide between the American release of this game and the Japanese release of this game.
Okay.
Symbolism and history are very different across oceans and across countries and everything, and they didn't realize when they were making this game that a lot of the symbolism and theming of this game was going to hit a bit of a sore spot in Japan. That's because there was an historic subclass of meat packers in Japan, of like people who were kind of lesser than.
Oh, wow.
A lot of them were marked by their poverty, by having missing limbs.
Oh, my God,
cut off and all that. So it was like 4 fingers was almost like a symbol of this lower class of people who worked in the meat packing place. This game takes place in a meat packing area. The mouth being sewn shut is almost like an image of having your voice taken away. And they only had 4 fingers. The Mudokons only had 4 fingers. So they actually had to change that in subsequent releases to make it 3 fingers. And then they made it canonical.
Wow.
And it even went so far as like as part of the marketing thing in America, because it doesn't have that deep history of what this image of a creature represents. They released a popsicle, and it was a Mudokon, but it was a severed head of a Mudokon on a stick that you ate. So it was like very gruesome.
Yeah.
But tried to be kind of tongue in cheek. In Japan, that just didn't fly. They just had to change it, not do the marketing that way. Just like a very, very different vibe for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, showing some respect to people. That just seems like a nice.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the reception of the game, it eventually sold, even though it was only released with 500,000 copies, it eventually sold 3.5 million copies.
Oh my God.
Making it one of the best-selling PlayStation games of all time. Game Rankings gave it an overall score of 88%.
Okay.
EGM gave it an 8.5. Game Informer gave it a 9.25, and IGN with a 7.5. So,
IGN.
You know, we'll see whether the pacing of this holds up. I think that's going to be the one major sticking point. I remember this game not being very fluid. I remember the saving mechanics not being very forgiving because it's checkpoints, and if you fail, you have to start much earlier.
Yeah.
And I remember it being almost like, I mean, there were a lot of games like this at the time, even like the original Prince of Persia. I should have compared it to that rather than like Limbo and Inside, because that kind of did something similar with these set pieces.
Okay.
Of being these very unforgiving puzzle segments. And that may be frustrating for us now. I wonder if we're going to have the same general wow factor that we had with something like Rayman.
Yep.
Because it also came out on the PlayStation 1, because it was colorful and it was emotive and it felt more cartoony. We really took to that. This is darker and this is grittier, and I wonder if that's going to feel a little bit too on the nose for games of that time, even though it was relatively new to do that. Every other subsequent game went dark and gritty, and I wonder if that's going to bit of an issue.
You know, you say certain buzzwords, and that's the stuff that scares me. Like, save mechanics. You're
Yes.
like, oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
And you're like, my other fear, you know, I said earlier, like games that are trying to be funny or quirky, is that you're allowed to do that. And I love the stupidest kind of humor in the world. Like, I am totally okay with that. My problem is that if you know you're trying to make a funny game and you hold the pause for like jokes and stuff like that, that is when I go, oh boy. Like it's like
you try to revel in your own jokes. Yes, exactly.
Look into the camera like,
unless the look to the camera is the joke. Like, is the thing to say, like, isn't it silly how no, not even that. I mean, it's isn't our self-involvement with our own jokes is making fun of ourselves for being so proud of our own smug jokes.
Sure. Okay. I will hold judgment.
Okay.
Until I see Abe himself.
Abe.
Sweet Abe.
Honestly, looks kind of like in design and shape of the head, like Homer's dad as well. Abe Simpson. So we'll see. Not a ton more to say about this. I'll hold most of my thoughts from when I played this game as a kid, expanding on that for when I give my retro review out of 4 bits, and you'll do the same. But before then, we're going to get to the gameplay segment. Andrew, you ready for it?
Absolutely. I cannot wait to go play this game.
All right. So if you're going to join us for the gameplay over on our Patreon, or eventually potentially be released on YouTube, keep an eye out for it there. We'll see you over there. Instructions are going to be in the break. We're going to read all over that.
What do you need from us?
So if you're going to enjoy us and join us for the gameplay and enjoy the gameplay, great. We'll see you there. Otherwise, we'll see you on the other side in 2 shakes of a Mudokon's tail.
Instructions incoming in 3, 2, 1.
Just a reminder that you can now find our gameplay segments where we play through a portion of today's game and provide video commentary while doing it over on our Patreon, patreon.com/the Retrograde Podcast. Join the Mushroom Club for $5 US per month for access to all the gameplay, plus 2 to 4 bonus episodes per month where we do things like character drafts, top 10 lists, and even take some suggestions from our community. So show some support to the podcast by joining the Mushroom Club at patreon.com/the Retrograde Podcast for access to bonus content and all of our gameplay segments. We'll see you guys on the other side.
And welcome back to the Retrograde.
Follow me. Hello. Crazy. A, that game. B, how much Abe sounds like Marcel the Shell.
Right.
Which we talked about in the gameplay section. But
yes, we
not
did.
Everyone
Remembers those remember those videos from the internet about 15 years ago?
Marcel the Shell.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers Marcel the Shell. There's a movie out right now about Marcel the Shell.
Yes.
Don't take this from me.
What'd I take from you?
The love of a 15-year-old video.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like everyone.
No, yeah, I just had to say it.
Everyone was Jenny Slate's voice as Marcel the
I just
Shell.
had to say something about it.
I'm trying to remind the listener that what that reference
Then
is.
why roll your eyes?
I did roll my eyes.
You just did it again.
Did I? If I got a medical problem,
Don't blink.
Oh my god! Oh my god! If I sleep, I die.
I control your eyes now.
Yeah, you're right. It does. The voices are very cute, and actually, to be honest, the freedom. Here, I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit too. We're recording this on Labor Day.
Yes.
And there is something very fun about the idea of like we need to fight back against the man and free ourselves from this thing. And you're like, fun, cool, all right, very apropos.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like this game that much.
Yeah.
I am the man. I don't want you fighting
chomping
against
a
me.
big cigar,
100%.
and you're like, time to be meat, boys. And I don't want to hear any guff about it.
How am I supposed to make enough money to afford to take time off if you're trying to take time off?
It's a good point. It's a good point.
Time
off.
I pay you for a day and you didn't work that day? Thanks, Obama.
Of course, the famous inventor of Labor Day,
Yes.
Barack Hussein Obama. I have to say it. I think it's important.
Yes.
So yes, actually that side of the story, as kooky as it was, you fart on people and whatever, there's all this kind of crazy stuff too. I found actually pretty cool that you are trying to free slaves.
Sure.
Like it's kind of a cool idea.
And there's a commentary on working conditions. Like they shouldn't. Okay, I know there's certain things we can all agree on. Crunch in the workplace around video game companies, not good.
Bad.
Unpaid overtime, not good.
Not good. You should be paid for the work you do.
100%. This one's a little controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Wide open spaces and easy access to levers that grind meat in the form of giant human-sized anthropomorphic objects shouldn't be left in the open unsupervised.
100%. I don't want to be Jimmy Hoffa here, but I feel like we need to negotiate a few other things. Bombs left unattended on the floors.
Yes.
Not great.
Not great. At least have a security guard there with a gun protecting the bomb dispenser.
That's not a bad idea.
It's a pretty good idea.
Why don't we install some walls instead of lightning that is coming from one port to another to stop people from entering?
The problem is walls, I get it. They serve a purpose.
Okay.
But they're not metal.
No.
They're not. I mean, some of them are physically metal, but they're not like metal,
they're not metal.
Yeah.
Also, like, I can imagine too, I understand how big business works. The owner of this company is like, my best friend.
Yes.
Is the Kool-Aids. And their son, Kool-Aid Man, loves bursting through walls.
Loves it. And
Natural enemy. Their natural enemy is walls.
Right.
I can't be using walls
You
around
can't
here.
be using walls. He'll break those right down. But I'll tell you one thing.
What's that?
You know what does work?
Okay.
You electrify that little child from the inside out. You know what conducts electricity really well?
Yes.
Kool-Aid.
Oh, really?
Inside his pitcher. I want to boil him from the inside out.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that are unsafe working conditions, I don't think. The instructions that we put in the guards to shoot first and then just figure anything else out afterwards.
But I mean, people talk about our working conditions,
Uh-huh.
right? Like we're
Yeah.
like we're big troublemakers here. We let our guards sleep on the job willy-nilly.
That is true. You're right.
We let them sleep, and we pay them for those breaks as
Yeah.
long as they shoot the slaves.
Yes, it really is. It's unbelievable. The guard is like primo position there. Sleep whenever you want, shoot whatever you want.
Anything.
Yep, you're good. Actually, it's pretty good now. I think about it. Elliot, don't get any ideas.
Elliot, don't get any
No.
ideas. And
Stay
by
awake.
the way, if we ask you to come towards us, you come towards us, even if we're standing next to a lever.
Yes.
And that lever clearly leads to a trap door that you're going to fall through to your death.
I actually wish you were more like the video game because then it would be like, hello. And you'd be like, hello. I'd be like, follow me. And you're like, okay. Instead of fuck off, which I think is really, really mean.
And maybe for once you put up with my farts.
Yes, you put up the farts. I will say, though, the character Abe and Elliot dress very similarly.
They dress very similarly.
It's kind of a loincloth.
One is, and I said this about Abe when we were playing, Abe's character design is Goro pre-steroids.
Yes.
Assuming that the steroids also add 2 arms in whatever weird chemical. That happens with steroids, right?
100% grow
Yeah.
other appendages.
Same haircut.
Same haircut.
Similar facial structure.
Yep. The same number of fingers. And
Same number of fingers,
Yeah.
it looks like.
Yeah.
Similar outfit.
Similar outfit. Just it's like a Bane version of Goro.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just pumped him up. So we played Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee.
Oh, that's what we were talking about?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about
It
this whole
wasn't
time.
our actual company that we own. So, okay, Andrew, walk us through the basic premise of this game as we played it. Include some of the gameplay elements. For people who missed the gameplay segment over on Patreon,
right.
patreon.com/The Retrograde Podcast.
So you start the game.
Yes.
There's some very like sassy little like interface things, and before the actual game starts, of like, this game is loading, so deal with it.
Yes. Yeah.
They also had like a fun thing about seeing the preview for the next game before, and they were like, see cheesy preview, or like, just take me to the game.
Yes. You can literally watch the preview for the sequel to this game.
Which is cool.
Very
I like
cool.
That.
Yeah.
You know what I also miss? Like, every time you see those previews on like a DVD or a VHS,
yes,
and they're like coming up next, or like feature presentation. I'm like, oh, that's great. I missed these. That's
Totally
so much fun. Okay. So then you start, you are Abe. They give you like a little bit of an intro video that explains that you are trying to escape.
Sure.
Right. That's pretty much where we get to.
You discover the intro video introduces the fact that you've discovered you're a slave working for this company, and some of your friends are being eaten.
Yes, that's exactly it. So you're like, I shouldn't be here. I'm trying to escape. And I will say, a lot of the backgrounds that you now go through into these first couple of levels are in the background of saying like, escaping, like, if you escape, everyone on this level will die.
Yes.
Or the number of escapees and the number of people that work here and the number of casualties.
Right.
Because there's a lot of influence that Abe can have over, you run into your coworkers that are cleaning floors or doing things, and you can kind of talk to them about like, hello, follow me. And they're like,
the control mechanics are, it's essentially press L1 or L2 to bring up a different forms of communication. Hello.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Whistle.
Wait. Whistle. Fart.
Yeah. Fart. Fart was a big one.
So that's how you that's the primary crux of how you interact with this world is through, they called it something speak. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. But you can talk to these people that are kind of essentially non-playable characters, and then you start talking to them, and they kind of come alive and go like, okay. And you can get them out of there by chanting. And this is where, trust me, there's going to be a few of these things. This is where you chant and open a bird portal that frees them and gets them out of there.
Now, I'm sure there's something in the world building in some of the later versions of this game that explain why birds become portals that the Muddikins can escape from.
But birds are the only thing I recognize as a real thing that in our world as well. And so you go through essentially a platforming puzzle game in which there are enemies and your colleagues, and what you're trying to do is free as many of your colleagues as possible.
While avoiding the security guards with guns.
Exactly. There are levers that you can open up trapdoors, or, bombs, throw bombs at things, didn't detonate bombs. There's all these really cool little things, but it is, I would say, a pretty intimate and small platforming puzzle game.
Sure.
Yeah.
It is very contained. I think section by section. And one of the things that we read is that a lot of people didn't like the fact that the checkpoint mechanic would kind of bring you back to earlier portions of the level. I didn't see anything to do with lives in this game, by the way.
No, and we died a lot.
We died a lot.
And some more than others. It was me. I died more. I could not figure out this jumping part of this game.
And?
So what happened was, and Mikey died less.
A given.
Uh-huh.
But you wanted to say something to the listener.
There was no lives that...
And the viewer.
Right.
For wasting their time.
Oh, no. I didn't. I think this is a natural part of playing video games. I'm not going to apologize for playing the game. The game played me.
People like when... people come hat in hand and apologize.
I don't think an apology is needed. I am admitting full, hat in hand, fedora in hand, full of vomit.
Okay, this sounds like a bit of an apology. I like it.
That I took...
Where are your goggles? By the way. Where are your goggles?
Where are my goggles? They do nothing. I could not fucking figure out this one level where I had to jump between these three platforms, excuse me, while rocks are falling down. And so I just kept running into the rocks or not making the jump.
That's true.
Unbelievable.
Dying quite a bit, but never feeling the point I was making about the checkpoints is it never really felt like too much of a punishment.
No.
Now, I do remember playing this game that there were sometimes like 3 screens worth of checkpoints that you had to get through. So it's like, do this, then do that, then do that. And sometimes that feels like, look, I've done this one thing once. Can't you just accept the fact that I know how to do it? Put me through to the next space. But some of the puzzles become multi-screen puzzles. Like there's the one where you have to get a grenade from the big boombox or whatever it's called. You could throw that at a guard, or you can take it up an elevator to clear out some mines, or you can kill another guard with it, or like trying to figure your way through this level required you to pass through, I think, 3 different screens. And that's cool. So that in that way, you can't always just die and then come back to the checkpoint of the same screen you were in when you died. So they do have to pull it back a little bit. Sometimes when it's a jumping mechanic in a game where the controls are not, I'm going to say not forgiving, but also just not very finely tuned, that's frustrating. Because the moment when you were dying at, to be fair, in any other game you play, you do that 10 times out of 10.
Without blinking.
So if the controls are a bit more finely tuned, you succeed at that. And we hate this with retro games. The difficulty being a result of poor controls is never forgivable.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I didn't find this game difficult at all. I found navigating the game difficult.
Yes.
It's a
little clumsy.
It is.
Yeah.
Like it is. It like even to the point that like you're trying to either jump to a ledge that you're going up or in front of a lever or get to the middle of a door so you can go through it. That is one of the hardest things because taking these little half steps is very hard for Abe to do.
Yeah.
That should not be the difficult part of the game. Like
no, there's no half step forward. It's you tap left or right and you move a set distance.
Yes.
And it's like you just hope to be close enough or far enough from the ledge without being too close that when you press right to get a little bit closer, it doesn't shoot you right off the edge.
Yes, exactly.
That said, you asked me during the gameplay section, you said, what do you feel about the controls? And I described them as a means to an end. I didn't feel like they were interfering with the gameplay as often as maybe they could have because there isn't as much platforming, at least in the earlier portions of the game. But there were moments where I'm like, okay, I know that in order to kill this guard, I need to get their attention, run to one side of the screen, make sure I'm in a specific point of the screen to jump, because if you want to jump up and grab a lever or grab a ledge, you really have to be positioned perfectly. Now, in order to make sure you're positioned perfectly, you almost need an element of luck.
Yes.
Like stopping your run at the right moment and ending up in the right place and pressing jump. So when I thought about like, do I want to risk this and attract this enemy's attention, bring him over and get him into this trap that I laid, while taking the risk that the game's controls just kind of fuck up in the middle of that, I'm like, I don't know if I'm willing to do that. Whereas in something like Dark Souls, if I know an enemy's attack pattern, I'm 10 times out of 10 willing to take the risk if I'm comfortable enough with that enemy, because I know the random element isn't going to factor in. I'm just going to or not going to be able to kill someone based only on my skill level. So this frustrated me a little bit with some of the puzzles.
I would completely agree with you. I found it very frustrating as well.
Yeah.
There are certain elements where it's like they're logic puzzles. That's all they are, and that's great. And I have no problem with that. Then there's other ones where, like, near the end there, we're like, oh, what do we do? I'm like, I guess I could just try running. And I ran through the level. I'm like, that can't.
And it fucking broke the whole thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, that can't be the right way of doing that.
Specifically, you'd enter a screen, and if you're walking, an enemy jumps down right in front of you, turns around and shoots. But if you run through it, which you'd think would draw more attention, the enemy just doesn't move.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Weird.
Is this a commentary on the fact that the higher paid staff are actually fairly lazy and don't want to go out of their way to chase you down? They'll just shoot you in the face if it's convenient for them.
Yeah, what a criticism that would be.
Yeah.
They got fat happy on their salary jobs.
Scathing review from Lorne here.
So I don't know. There were certain elements. Yeah, like tossing the grenade was a good example.
Yes.
Where it should be easy. You should be able to drop it. But because of the distance we were at, you threw it and it bounced off the wall and you're like, oh,
it comes right back towards you. And then it doesn't even kill you. It just makes you have to go back down and get a new grenade. Like those sorts of time taxes are an element of this era of gaming as well, in order to either pad the time or because they thought that games just had to be punishing for the sake of being punishing. I don't know. I like that now in modern games, it's much more common for you to die and just immediately come back. And game developers and companies are more likely to say the punishment is that you didn't succeed. You don't need a time tax. You don't need to be thrown extra labor just because you didn't complete the task that you were supposed to complete. I like that. So there's a little bit of getting used to that in this. And I would use that to say that maybe this is a little bit before its time. Like it's a less refined version of what we have right now, but it's very ahead of its time in terms of its presentation and its commentary, even its animation. And one of the issues was back in this PlayStation 1 era of gaming, when you wanted really good animation, a lot of the times that came at the expense of tight controls because you'd like press a button, like even pressing up to enter in a doorway in this one. Abe like turns towards it and it looks very real and realized. But
the door thing too, when you get smaller, I just wanted.
I
thought that was very cool. Like
you enter one door.
Yes.
and you end up showing up on screen somewhere on a different platform farther in the distance.
Far in the distance.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very cool touch. And then later there was a guy, an enemy also in the background that could shoot you from a distance too. And I thought that was a very cool touch.
Unless you took cover through a little ledge that you can see, you know.
It makes a 2D platformer very three-dimensional.
Yes.
And that was very cool.
Almost like three-dimensional in a way that a lot of 2D platformers just don't achieve because it's foreground and background and layers of that. That was very cool. So that creativity in terms of giving you a world that felt fleshed out and realized and was surprising and organic, gave me like, you know, when you're playing Portal and you're like, I don't know what to do yet, but I appreciate that the game is smart enough to not give me too many clues.
Yeah.
Like, I will figure this out. It's just going to take me a time of understanding the physics of the world, the rules of the world, and then I'll be able to figure it out. There was that same urge to figure it out that I had in Portal. I experienced that in this game. And that's saying a lot because this game's, you know, several, almost a decade or more prior to Portal, right? Like, that's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
Did the puzzles like did you not so much?
They're fine. Like they're nothing crazy. Like it's so funny. I feel like we got into like some of the minutia of the game faster. I do want to just say over the top is that it's a really cool world that they created.
That is very true. Yeah.
It is like a really in-depth world where you do feel like this, you know, it doesn't exist, but you feel like there's a reality to it that makes sense. And so jumping in there, you're like, oh, this is very creative. And I'm very kind of committed into this idea already. And I think that's like one of the hardest things you can do in video games.
Sure.
And they did it very quickly.
They did it very quickly. And it reminds me like what you said about Bioshock, where, you know, regardless of the actual gameplay being tight, the world that you're in feels worthy of my time. And I want to explore more of it. The first cutscene is just Abe kind of walking around in his janitorial duties within the company, looking at posters that one of them says like, oh, this great snack sold out, now extinct, which means they're just like selling creatures as food, and now they've overproduced so much that the creature is now extinct. It tells you a lot about the corporation. It tells you a lot about the working situations and the living situations. The dark almost looks like you're working in a fucking sewer or something like that. Very dystopian.
It honestly could be from Stray.
Yeah, no, seriously, it could be like replace the robot or the guards with robots.
Yes,
and you with a cat.
There we go.
Put a dedicated meow button in it.
Replace the fart button. Replace the fart button. Put in meow button, and you're all set.
So all that said, the presentation, the music, the voice acting, the graphics, you know, have aged, but they do their job.
I think they're fine.
They're very pixelated at this point. Yeah, the resolution just isn't there, but they're fine. They don't get in the way. It makes me think that this is somewhat of a buried treasure. I know it's one of the highest selling games on PlayStation, but it's just not something that's talked about all that often anymore. Maybe eclipsed by the likes of Stranger's Wrath. So when people talk about Oddworld, that's what they talk about. But all in all, I had a great time with it, Andrew. And I remember having a great time with it as a kid. So why don't we get into our reviews of this game, Andrew? You're going to start off because you didn't have a ton of experience playing this one as a kid. You were familiar with it, but you didn't spend a ton of time with it. You're going to be giving your first review out of 4 bits based on what you think you would have thought about it had you been able to really sink your teeth into it when you played it back in 97 when it came out.
So to give my retro review, I'm just going to say once that these are incredibly subjective.
Yes.
I don't think I would have loved this game as a kid. I think this is just weird and slow, and my appreciation for all things weird was really high back then. Like, I loved the Muppets and their weird, like, fourth wall breaking meta and nonsense things. But my commitment to this actual jumping into another world, I think would have been... I don't know if I would have jumped in with 2 feet like we did today. So I'm not sure I would have been crazy about that. It did feel very slow. And yes, games were a little slower back then. That's totally fun. And this would have been more on par for the course for that and controls wise. I'm just not sure I would have really loved it. That being said, though, trying to put a handle on the things that I liked back then, I think I would have appreciated it.
Yes.
And there's a difference between those two things. So maybe I didn't beat the whole game, but I'm like, oh, that was kind of a fun game. I really like that. So I'm going to give it a very tepid, but positive 2.5.
2.5. I think that's fair. Yeah. I can confirm what you're saying about playing this game as a kid, even though we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
And appreciating it for what it was. I have such vivid memories of playing this game. You know, my mom bringing it home from that trip that she was on, and my brother and I playing it, and just having no fucking clue that games could be this.
I'm not gonna lie. If my parents brought this home from a vacation, I'd be like, "Oh, this must be a Greek game."
It honestly, it must be like some, whatever. Like, what the fuck am I even playing?
Whatever
right
country
now?
they're in, like only this place would make a game like this.
Exactly.
So exotic.
Greece.
Yeah, Greece.
That's it.
It's a Grecian game.
Yes, exactly. I remember giving it that respect, but I remember finding it really fucking difficult.
Yes.
In spite of that, we played a ton of it. I never beat it, but it's a game that I've thought of a lot, and a franchise that I have a ton of appreciation for because of that. Because I played it and got to experience it at a time when it was something special, and there was nothing else really like it. I like the blending of some of the platforming with the Lemmings elements. The darker tone was something that I didn't always get to experience in video games either. But keeping in mind at 1997. At this point, I'm already playing an N64, so when you show me somewhat 3D graphics, I want to explore that world, and that's probably ultimately why I didn't spend as much time playing this game as I did some other games. As a kid, I didn't have this thought of like 2D can still be good. It was like watching black and white and then seeing color TV and thinking I'm never going back to black and white. Yes. It's like I've seen 3D. I never want to go back and play 2D. That's now dated.
Yes.
Unlike me up until my 30s. So I'm going to give this one a bit of a higher 3 out of 4. I considered going higher than that, but because I didn't spend, because this was a wildly unique game to me.
Yeah.
I have great memories of it and wild memories of it, but I didn't spend enough time with it. And ultimately the review has to do with how much did I enjoy the game as a kid, not just how much did I respect it. So I'm giving it the 3 out of 4.
Okay, well, there we go. 3 out of 4. So that's a 5.5 out of 8 for our retro scores.
Now, Andrew, what about your review in the modern day? How does this game hold up in the modern day against like some modern games like Madden 23, like Overwatch 2, like God of War, like all the other fantastic titles that we talked about earlier?
It's so funny because this maybe more than any other game is a complete opposite of my current score and my retro score are brought up by different ways.
Okay.
Like back then I would have been like, oh, this is interesting. It's a puzzle game. It's weird, but I don't know if I like it being weird, whatever. But it's slow and whatever. Now I'm like, oh, I love how weird it is.
Yes.
Like, oh, that's so cool that we're going into this like really strange story and like you're trying to fight the man and all this kind of stuff. I love that. That's awesome. But it's slow and the controls are kind of weird and the graphics are okay and the music's kind of creepy and stuff like that. There's a meta quality that I really enjoy about it that feels like it's talking right to you. It's weird that this is
talking to you because you are like, you're very much like a union buster.
100%. Yeah. I'm Abe, I've had my mouth sewn shut. I have a weird ponytail. I fart all the time. It's speaking directly to me. Yes. And I think that's really awesome that 25 years later, I now have caught up with where these guys have grown up in video games. I think it was so much fun and just different and out there, but at the same time, the gameplay is just not a ton of fun. Like it just slows down to an absolute crawl, and not in a way of like, oh, okay, wait, how do we solve this problem and get your mind going? It's more like it slows down to a crawl because you're like, oh, okay, wait, I gotta wait. All right,
sure.
And now the lever, okay, and there we go.
Sure.
And that would just be so tedious as it goes forward. That all being said, I'm actually going to give it a better score than I did in my retro score because it is so weird, and to create a world like this is so unique at the time. And I wish they made more of these games. I wish we saw a new version of this game in 2022. That so it advanced on all the things that weren't great about the slow controls, things like that. Because this world is so cool, I'm going to give it 3 out of 4.
So you're going more. I think that's great. And I just want to say that there is Oddworld Soulstorm, which came out. It's so that this is kind of a more modern version of the Oddworld games.
What year did that come out of?
This came out in 2021.
Oh, it came out last year.
April 5th, 2021. And then also, you do have some of the remasters available on I'm
very curious about
PlayStation Plus. So there is a better version of this, a more refined version of this that's out there if you want to play it.
Cool.
That said, I'll get into my review as well. In the modern day, I gave it a 3 in the retro score, and I feel pretty good about that score even in the modern day. I think the clunkiness of the controls affected you a bit more than they affected me. I didn't mind them as much because I wasn't thinking about this game like a platformer. And I know there were somewhat of a platform. There were some platformer elements to it, specifically that jumping thing. But I honestly think the reason why I succeeded at that puzzle and you didn't is because I thought of it as a puzzle and not a platforming segment. It was get to a certain point, press triangle. That's it. The jump always takes you a certain amount and it pushes you forward. You don't need to time it out. Yeah. The only thing you're timing is the falling rocks so that you don't get hit by them. The second jump was a bit of a sprint and a jump, and it was basically the same thing. I was holding the sprint modifier for run, and as soon as I saw a rock at the top of the screen, I just press left and then triangle. And timing was like triangle for jump. Or sorry, right and triangle. Timing was barely an element. It was just a matter of like grid-based mechanics. As soon as I press right, now it's time to press triangle, the jump happens, and that's it. And thinking about the whole game like that, as a puzzle game instead of a platformer, kind of makes the controls part of it. And I know I just said earlier that I don't like when you're penalized for bad controls, when difficulty is determined by bad controls, but this is more an element of puzzling being determined by bad controls. And that isn't great, but is a little bit easier to digest. And regardless of that, I loved the atmosphere. I loved how unique it was even 25 years later. Okay. There's nothing really like this that I could play right now, except maybe Inside. Inside is somewhat of a similar game, but I'm giving this one a 3 out of 4 as well.
Okay.
I could definitely see myself spending more time with it. The remaster is something that really has piqued my interest. And God, let's show some love for this developer this long lost developer that did nothing but good. And the industry ground them down to a pulp and made them not want to make games anymore, because this industry is a harsh mistress, as they say.
I'd say so. Yeah, so there you go. That's 11.5 out of 16 for our scores. That's a pretty good score.
All in all, pretty good. I think we're looking at a game that some people probably hold in even higher esteem.
Yeah.
You know, they're wondering like why it doesn't get maybe a little bit more. If you were 5 years older than us or something like that, and you played this game at a time when your patience and understanding for puzzlers was a little bit higher, then maybe you'd have a bit more affinity towards it. But that's where we're at, 11.5 out of 15 or 16, excuse me. And let's go. Maybe I like that's not the end of the episode, right?
No, that's not the end of the episode. But I will say, IGN gave it a 75%. 11.5 of 16 is 72.
There you go.
Like it's not within not the realm.
No, 100%. Some companies were giving it this, like around this. The Metacritic though was an 88. I think a lot of people probably gave it a higher rating just because of how advanced it looked with the FMV graphics and the personality that was imbued to it, the cutscenes and all that. One thing we didn't mention: this game would sometimes cut from scene to scene in an FMV without changing. Like you'd enter a door, an FMV would take over, bring you to a new area of the level. You saw the pan of the camera, something that was very new for that time.
Yeah, very cool.
Technology that we don't talk about. But let's see if there's any maybe new awards that we can get to this game.
That
because
be nice?
We're looking back at this game from 97, but let's revisit it in the modern day on the red carpet and see if there's any awards that this game won.
Let's go take a step down this red carpet together.
So we're going to go there and this is how we're going to do it, okay?
Okay, how are we going to do it?
Hello. Follow me.
Okay.
Crouch.
Crouch, roll. Shooting guns. Okay, let's go.
You've been waiting for it all year. The most glamorous award ceremony of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, the Grady's.
Well, here we are. We avoided the machine guns.
Because we're rolling.
Keep rolling, as Fred Durst once said.
Absolutely.
Keep rolling.
Another
also,
tattoo
burn down that thing. I don't know. It's a Woodstock reference.
Yeah, sure.
It's there somewhere. At this point, that's like a month old, and that is way too old a reference to be making. Elliot, thank you for showing up in your tattered underwear, I guess.
Yeah,
loincloth?
it's funny that, loincloth. It's funny that you just were wearing that and you're like, oh, good, I don't have to change for the game.
Yeah, that's what he sleeps in. Elliot, our producer on the show, ripped as all hell.
Yes,
comes to the award ceremony with an envelope in hand, and in that envelope, it's going to tell us the awards that this game won, right?
Can't wait.
So, Elliot, why don't you open that envelope and let us know the awards that Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee, is taking away. The Wine Cellar.
Oh, yeah, crap. Oh, God, I hate this award now.
Wow. Indubitable.
This is what Mikey thinks wine drinkers are like. Oh, no.
Tastes like aged Kool-Aid.
Yeah, probably.
My mom won't let me drink wine.
No, yeah, I don't. Well, honestly, based on this, yeah, I understand why.
What if it made me this cultured, though? Wouldn't she like that?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, this is what you're missing out. You're not cultured enough based on this.
Yes, not. I'm drinking a delicious.
Oh, that is disgusting. People listen to this in their ears. Yeah. Oh, it's smoky.
Woo!
Spicy?
That's Frank's hot sauce.
Yeah, it's Frank's. Oh, he drinks the Frank's hot sauce. Okay, well,
I couldn't tell the difference. Honestly.
No, honestly, no. Yeah. You drink a lot of bad wine.
You got me.
Good job, Elliot.
Well, the wine cellar, a higher current score than the retro score. One of my favorite awards for several reasons. One is because I get to show everyone my cultured colors.
Yes.
And two is because it's always a good sign when a game is aged so well that we like it more today than we did back in the day.
We love being
what
wrong.
This is all about.
We love being wrong. What's that?
I don't like being wrong.
No, I can tell.
I like when you're wrong.
I like being wrong because I like when I give out a score and I'm like, no, you know what? Actually, played it. I was wrong as a child. It's much better. That was good. And this is a great example of that.
It is. It really is. I had a great time with it. But we would be wrong as well if we thought that this episode was over. It isn't quite over. We have one more segment. It's now a fucking fan favorite. And thanks to everyone who supported to write in with questions that we got. It's 3 sentences to You Might Guess the Game, the segment where we give 3 sentences to describe the plot of a game and see if we can guess the game in either the first, second, or third sentence. Now, these always have to be somewhat purposely vague. Some of the submissions were submitted with the answer pretty close to the questions. Unfortunately, this is one of them as well. So I know the answer to this one. I'm going to be giving you the clues, Andrew, and you're going to tell me whether or not you can pick up. This one was submitted by Justin Bell.
Thank you, Justin.
Email the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com if you have any of your own. We're going to get into this one here. Okay, Andrew, first question. A biologically enhanced agent is tasked to eliminate three crime syndicates with a goal of having a crime-free city.
Oh, God, that could be so many games.
Yeah, it can be.
So I immediately think it's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. Could also be Yakuza. Could also be... okay. Obviously, I'm going to need a second sentence, but I'm just sharing my thoughts.
Well, look, there's more than one sentence. It's not 1 sentences to You Might Guess the Game.
Yeah, right.
It's our 3 sentences. It's our 310 to Yuma themed 3 sentences to You Might Guess the Game.
Did you ever watch the original 310 to Yuma?
There's a movie?
Yeah.
There's a movie called 310 to Yuma?
There's 2 movies, actually.
What?
If you didn't know that was a movie, how in the world did you come up with 310 to Yuma?
It's just a good sounding sentence.
Oh, okay. That's probably why they named the movie that.
310 to Yuma.
Yeah.
Okay, once the gangs are fully exterminated, it is revealed that the agency had ulterior motives. The agency had secretly empowered the 3 gangs to incite fear in the citizens.
Okay.
Bit of a run-on sentence.
Yeah, that's quite a sentence.
This is 3.5 sentences to You Might Guess the Game.
Run-on sentences to you. Okay, can you say it again, though? So we found out that
once the gangs are fully exterminated, it is revealed that the agency had ulterior motives and had secretly... Okay, I'll change this from a run-on to I'll fix the syntax a little bit.
Thank you.
Once the gangs are fully exterminated, it is revealed that the agency had ulterior motives and had secretly empowered the 3 gangs to incite fear in the citizens.
Okay, but we find that out once they're eliminated.
Yes.
That they were instilling fear. It's not Batman because he's not genetically altered. Because I think it's some kind of scarecrow thing.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Am I barking up the wrong tree, or do you think I got something going here?
Tough. I mean, the thing is, it's that hint there is very plot heavy.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm thinking of the gameplay, it has almost nothing, which is fine. That's how it's supposed to be. But it's very hard to get a gameplay clue from these clues yet.
Okay, so let's go with the third sentence and then we'll discuss.
So the third sentence, this created an acceptance from the citizens for a military-controlled city with a plan to replicate in cities across the globe to create a new world order.
Okay. Man, is it like The Division?
The Division was one of my guesses.
Really?
When I was reading through this one, it's not The Division.
Okay, perfect. Good. Because in the New World Order side of it now too.
Yes.
I'm trying to think.
To be fair, I don't know if you've played this game.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, well, great.
Okay. So give us a guess. You don't have a guess?
No, I do not have a guess.
Okay, I'll kind of tease this out of you. Open world, kind of like almost genetically, you're basically a superhero police officer.
Oh, is it whatever the new one with Keanu Reeves? What was that?
Cyberpunk? No.
Okay.
No. Earlier than that, originally an Xbox 360 title. Super Soldier, you could jump from building to building.
Wow.
It was almost like
Sounds
Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, but with driving and guns.
I don't know.
It's Crackdown.
Never even heard of that once in my life.
You've never heard of Crackdown?
No, never heard of it once.
Oh, man. Crackdown's good. It's a little bit more of an ancillary, type, not the biggest franchise in the world, but
I'd say so.
Probably before your time as an Xbox kid.
Okay.
So Crackdown, thanks again to Justin Bell. By the way, if you have a submission that you want to submit for 3Sen10 Says to You Might Guess the Game, you can do so by emailing the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on our socials at retrogradepod. At Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy on Twitter, or at the Retrograde Podcast on Instagram. By the way, we're on TikTok now, getting a little bit of a start there, so reach out to us at Retrograde Pod on that as well. Send the algorithm some favor.
Yeah.
Give us some likes, follow us, and let's go to the moon with all that.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we want to hear more of those. People love it. Let's keep doing it. Thank you so much for listening to the Retrograde Podcast. We love every single one of you. Wait, no.
No, I was saying you're welcome.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for listening. You listen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you very much. It's great when I get to go face to face with the listener and go, thank you very much for listening. That's really good. We love every single one of you, especially the Philippines, who loves us right back. My name's Andrew Bascom, and with me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself,
Mikey Aaronworth.
This is the Retrograde Podcast.
Game over. Want more Retrograde in your life? You can visit our website for show notes at theretrogradepod.com. Follow us on Twitter at Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy, and the podcast at Retrograde Pod.
Or Instagram at the Retrograde Podcast.
For bonus episodes, check us out at patreon.com/theretrograde podcast.
Send your questions and business inquiries to the retrogradepodcast@gmail.com.
See you next week, D-pads.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
Get the fucking camera out of my face.
Get this fucking camera out of
What
my
am I,
face.
Russell Crowe? Get the fucking camera out of my face.
Bring the camera into my face.
I need more cameras.
Give me more cameras.
I eat cameras.